Good evening, Facebook family. Welcome to another episode of Marriage Mondays with Nick and Trina Brunson, also known as the Lady and the Coach. And we just want to welcome you as we come in tonight to discuss another topic and another issue that would allow your marriages to be better. We just ask that you continue to take in information that we give you every week and spread it and share it and talk about it with your spouse to maybe help your situation becomes better.
Yeah, so this is the week of Thanksgiving, so we just want to take the time and encourage everybody to enjoy family, make it a special event, especially for those that are able to come back together this year in light of last year with the pandemic, which caused a lot of people to have to make some adjustments to their Thanksgiving plans. So we just are prayerful for all of you and thankful for all of you, and hope that this year will be a good year for Thanksgiving for you guys. All right, I see Gloria Smith, first one on tonight. Thank you, Gloria. We're happy to have you. We will go ahead and did we already say who we represent?
No, I haven't.
Well, we do represent Crown Kingdom Cultural Center. It's a church ministry that is ultimately a part of the Kingdom of God. We're on assignment. We represent that particular church ministry, which is ours, under the leadership of Bishop Finance Bush Jr. and Lady Denise Bush. So we are honored to represent them and to represent Christ. As we see more and more people coming on today, I see y'all rolling on in. So we are going to have a good lesson. We always say that because we always feel good about the lessons we choose. But this lesson tonight is stemming from what we learned Sunday in church, coming off the series for navigating God in hard places, navigating through darkness. And so this lesson is an adaptation of that lesson. So if you are not a member of Crown, you haven't heard any of these lessons on God in hard places and navigating through darkness, we encourage you to look on our church Crown Kingdom Cultural Center Facebook page and take the time to listen to the last few lessons, sermons that have been posted under that title. And you'll see that title listed, in the posts that are related to this topic or lessons that are connected. So we encourage you to do that. If you're not a member of our church Facebook page, you don't have to be a member of our church to be a member of the Facebook page. Being a member of the page just gives you access to the information that our church puts out. And so that's open to everyone, anyone who's interested. We ask that you just click that join button that you'll see on the Facebook page for Crown Kingdom Cultural Center. And you'll be joined in.
All right. So as people continue to come in, we just want to say thank you and just say hello to everyone. As they're coming in, we have two of our faithful coming in tonight, Sheena and Latasha. They take real good notes in the comments. So they're like I guess our recorders as we go through. We appreciate them because they take the information and get it back to you so you can read it as we're going through it.
I think you're thinking about Minister Lakeisha Roberts, who types in a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she and Sheena. Yeah, Latasha's faith. She comments a lot,
right? Which
we appreciate very much, the interaction, feedback. So.
All right. So.
And Miss Rhonda Johnson does the same. So we appreciate you guys joining in. Do you want to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, navigating through the darkness is what we're talking about, in essentially based on
barriers.
We're going to talk about barriers, but we're talking about the sermons that Bishop is talking about right now as we have church on Sundays. But we're going to take a subtopic from those lessons, and we're talking about the four barriers to navigate
to receiving from God.
The barriers.
Tongue-tied today.
Yeah, a little bit. Always,
right.
That country is in me.
Well, so we're gonna pray your tongue loosens up.
So basically, we're gonna talk about the four barriers tonight. Mm-hmm. Four barriers, and the first one.
Well, can I say?
You want to say something?
We talked about a little bit of an introduction,
right?
And that, like you were saying, the overall topic is God in hard places, navigating through darkness. And so, in marriage, the very construct of marriage, of the two becoming one, will lend itself to sometimes entering dark places. But just because life happens, you're going to have some losses, some deaths, you'll have some conflict, you'll have various transitions, even as you transition from maybe a stage of not having kids to having kids to middle to school age years to transition into those places of transition can be challenging within a marriage. Sometimes you enter in, if you're blending two families together, that can be very much a challenge, to blend those two families together and to build those new relationships among children and the additional parent. But there are a lot of reasons in marriage that there can be hard places, not always dark, not just dark places, but hard places. And we need God, and God always knew from the beginning that we would need his help. He knew that we would need his help, and God provides readily to us the help that we need. But we have to stay mindful that God is with us no matter what. Everything that we go through, everywhere we are, everywhere we be. This used to be a song we used to sing growing up in church. Everywhere I go, everywhere I be, God is, but God is with us. And we can't forget that. Sometimes it seems easy to forget because we don't physically see him. And I mean, even as Christians, sometimes we forget that God really is with us. And by his Holy Spirit, he actually lives in us. And so the things that we care about, those are the cares that he wants us to cast to him. There are some things, God is ready to help us, but we have to be able to receive the help that he offers us. God don't beat you over the head with his help, but you have to align with God and get on his page in order to be able to. You got to be in a mindset and a position to know what help God is giving you and to be able to receive it. So sometimes there are a lot of barriers that people have to receiving help from God. Sometimes it's faith or belief or whatever. But the thing we want to talk about tonight is those your personal barriers to believing. And I know we're talking about marriage.
Right.
So we're not talking about marriage barriers. We're talking about personal barriers, because the marriage is made up of two people. So the barriers that are present in the marriage come from the two people that are involved in the marriage. So you do have to take a personal look, and that's what we want to help you with tonight.
Go ahead.
Is to recognize those 4 of those barriers that can hinder you from actually receiving the help that God is trying to get to you.
Yeah, that's the point I was just going to make. Those personal barriers can prevent you from receiving that help, or just being in a mindset to receive and thinking about the help that can help the two of you get through those hard places. One of those barriers we're going to talk about is personal ignorance. Now, we've talked about personal ignorance. In order to change something, you need new information. But if you think you know and you've got to figure it out, you won't put yourself in a position to receive that new information. You think you already know. You don't think you need any help from anybody. But if you're the person in the relationship and you think you don't need any help, pretty good chance y'all not growing together. And if you don't receive new information to help your marriage grow, you're not growing together. You're just kind of stagnant.
Well, and even if you have new information, it's hard for you to hear it if you don't recognize that you need the information. Mm-hmm. And so overcoming personal ignorance, of course, ignorance is just you not knowing. We're not saying dumb or stupid. That's not synonyms for the word ignorant. Ignorance simply means you do not have the knowledge. You do not know. You're not aware. That's what ignorance is. And so personal ignorance is your inability to recognize that what you are doing continues to put you in the same position that you keep finding yourself in. If you keep having these cycles to come around in your relationship, particularly,
right.
And you seem at your wit's end as to how to, like, maybe you've already had conversations about it, you've communicated about it, but it just keeps happening. Even though it seems like both partners are putting forth some effort to do better, but somehow it's still, you keep falling into the same cycle, there's a good chance that there's some underlying reason that one or both of you is ignorant of. And so sometimes it takes someone else, sharing the observation with you for you to recognize it. Sometimes it takes us, talking to you about different issues for you to say, oh, wait, that sounds like me. It sounds like they're talking about me. And you're being able to relate to maybe problems or solutions, issues that we've had, or we talk about problems and solutions and conflict that other people have had. Sometimes you can recognize it more easily on other people, and if you start to reflect on yourself, you can become more self-aware.
All right.
So the first thing is at least learning to recognize that there is a personal reason or a personal problem or conflict or something you become aware of in reference to yourself, something you are doing or saying. For example, I'm a speech therapist, and part of my job is I work with children who have difficulty pronouncing their sounds correctly. And sometimes I get a referral from a parent or from the school, from the teacher, saying, little Bobby don't know how to say his R sounds. So anytime he's having trouble learning to read because he can't pronounce his R sounds correctly, and the teacher will be like, I don't know how to help him fix it. And so she refers him maybe for a screening with me, with speech therapist. So I get little Bobby in the room, particularly if he's in about 3rd or 4th grade. This is so real and so true. This has happened to me so many times. I'm getting to the point.
You're in there, right? Go ahead.
It's relative. And so what happens is the little kid comes in, and I will ask him, I say, do you have any, I'm a speech therapist, I help kids with the way they talk. Do you have any words that are hard for you to say, or something that you feel like I can help you with? Most of the time, sometimes, I ain't gonna say most of the time, this particular type of child will say no.
Good.
I think I'm pretty good. I don't have any problems with any sounds. I say, okay. And then I might, hold up some colors and have him say the colors. And if he says wed instead of red, I'll say, wed? You sure? What do you call this color? And he'll say red. I say, wed? And he'll say, no, why are you saying it like that? You're not saying it right. And I say, well, I thought that's how I heard you say it. And then the child will say, I didn't say that. I didn't say wed. I said red. He'll say, I didn't say wed. I said wed. Okay, so you know what I do? I record him. So I turn my recorder on my phone or on my iPad, and I say, well, okay, say this list of words for me. All our words. And child will read the word. And I said, well, with your permission, let's listen back to those words, and you tell me if it sounds the same as what you're telling me it sounds. We listen back to the words, and sometimes they'll start listening, and they'll look at me like I did something weird to the recording. And then some of them will like cover their face like, oh my God, what has happened? Because then they become aware. And I try to reassure them, it's okay. That's what I'm here for. That's what I spend my whole day, is helping kids. So I'm going to help you with it, But I can't help them with anything if they don't acknowledge that there's a problem. That kind of kid. I mean, everybody don't have to have a buy-in. But when you've got a 3rd or 4th grader, they need to know what you're working on. And so once they become aware that they really are mispronouncing the word, because they thought I sounded silly when I said wed for red. Mm-hmm. They thought I was silly and that I sounded funny. They was like, I don't talk like that. And the same is true for people.
They don't know.
We don't recognize what we're doing sometimes, and it can be obvious to other people, but sometimes it's difficult to get a person to see themselves from others' perspectives. Did that make sense? So that was a rabbit trail.
No, I think you got them.
Okay. All right. So that's what I wanted to say, is that increasing awareness. And sometimes I actually have to spend several therapy sessions just teaching the child how to hear the difference between two sounds before I can even work on trying to teach them how to fix it. Mm-hmm. So.
And just like anything, just like marriages, you may have to go to a couple of sessions to get out the information that needs to be understood in order to fix the situation that you're going through, or just to fix that stronghold, or that information that you have that's not helping your marriage, to get it straight. you may have to go through a couple of things. You may have to hear your pastor. You may have to hear your marriage mentors, people that you look up to their marriages. You might need to hear it over and over to understand that what you're doing may not work well for your marriage. And
but the key word you said is hear. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to hear. And sometimes it takes a while to actually hear. Because I'm sure I wasn't the first person that recognized that their child's speech was not typical.
Right.
But people don't always, they can hear and see it in other people and judge it, but they can't hear and see it and judge it in themselves.
Right.
And that's not, I think that's just part of human nature.
Yeah.
We don't always see ourselves from the outside or see ourselves objectively, I think. So that's the first barrier to receiving help from God, is when you don't even acknowledge that you have anything you need help with, or you see you need help with something, but you don't recognize how you are part of the problem. That can be a barrier. So it helps to, you can pray to ask God to show you yourself, to show me what I need to work on in me. You can ask God that.
True. He
understands. He'll show you, because sometimes you just can't see it from other people's perspective. And I think that's human nature. I don't think that's saying, something bad about you. You meaning anybody, even me in particular. I know it's things about me that people have said, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Perfect. Well, perfect. What you mean?
I mean, you think what you're doing is perfect.
I didn't say that. I just don't see what they see.
Right.
That don't mean I see myself as perfect. It just means I don't see what they see. And just by saying it doesn't necessarily make me see it right away. It might give me pause that, okay, well, maybe something's there, but I don't think the opposite of that is just to perceive myself as perfect. Is that your perception?
And that's going to our second point.
Oh, you just
take time to know yourself. I mean, it's leading into what you're saying.
Okay.
Because you got to know who you are. And if you know who you are, or getting to know who you are, you take time to get to know who you are. Then what somebody may be saying, you take an introspective look at it.
Right.
You look at it and weigh your options, like, well, maybe they might be right.
Right. You got to process it.
Yeah, you gotta think about it.
Because sometimes people tell you stuff and their motives in the wrong place.
Right.
You can't take it what everybody says about you and think that something is wrong with you just because somebody said it. Because some people's motives just ain't right.
Right. And basically what this is telling you, we ain't telling you to take what everybody else say about you to heart, but we're saying get to know who you are. And there are ways to get to know who you are. There was a statement that the bishop made yesterday while he was in his sermon was, pay to learn so you can treasure to keep. Pay to learn so you can treasure to keep. What he was saying there, you may need to have to actually pay to go to seminars, to go to marriage counselors, to go to some training to get to know who you are. So that person can come out and be in a position to receive from God. Because if you don't know who you are, people can make you do what they want you to do. I know there's a quote that says, if you don't know who you are, people, what's that? That quote?
Don't have a clue.
All right, that was just off the top of my head. So if you don't know who you are, people can make you who they want you to be. And you got to be strong enough in you to know who you are to progress to that person that God wants you to be.
Right. And if you know that as a Christian, if you've progressed to a point in life to where you're open to hearing from God, once you find out what that weak area is, then you're open to getting a godly solution for it. Because a lot of times people may see, people that are in the world or people that don't use the Bible as their reference for life may recognize there's a problem, but they can take all kind of measures to self-medicate or ways to deal with the pain or pressures or whatever they have going on in lives. There are a lot of solutions out there. But when you are a child of God and God is readily able to help you, when you reach out to God and pray for solutions, pray for insight and wisdom, God will give that to you. So it's our part, it's our responsibility to recognize that God is there for us, and we have to reach out for that help and be able to accept it.
All right. Also, we're getting to know yourself. You need a vision and a plan. If you don't have a vision and a plan, what happens next could possibly consume your mental energy and your physical time.
Yeah.
So you need a plan for your life in order to progress into that person that you're going to be.
Yeah, because if you don't know where you're going, anywhere will do.
So have a plan and a vision, sort of take you where you need to be.
Yeah, and you submit that to God too, so that you can make sure you're within God's plan for your life.
All right. And we're talking about your individual. Just want to reiterate, this is the individual person within the marriage relationship.
Right.
In order to make the marriage relationship a lot better, so you can get out of hard places and don't be the person that's blocking yourself from getting out of the hard places.
Okay. Sheena's taking notes. I was trying to see if I was missing some comments here. They gave me a small window to look at. All right, so let's go on to number 3.
All right. Number 3, establish a personal interest.
And that almost sounds like it goes without saying, because if we're talking about you receiving from God, you would think that you do have a personal interest. But sometimes people get into the rut of going to church and just kind of doing everything as usual, that things just become kind of routine, rote, mundane. But this point is saying that it's a barrier to receiving from God when you don't take the time to establish a personal interest in what's going on. Know that you are invested in yourself. Know that God is interested in you. So take the time to, or not the time, but the interest. Not so much the time, but take personal interest into what's going on. Make it personal. Write your vision down. Get familiar with it. Articulate it. Be able to have conversation and to actually put into words what you're dealing with.
Right.
I think sometimes people can recognize that there's an issue, but not spend enough time to get to know the issue, get to know themselves, to be able to verbalize it and have the language that goes along with communicating about it. I just am a firm believer that you don't fully understand something that you can't explain. That's just my personal belief. If you can't explain it to someone, then you don't have a full understanding of what you're dealing with. Right. You might feel like you know it, but if you can't express it and communicate about it, you need to spend some more time developing your thoughts around that idea. You need to fine-tune your thinking, get the right vocabulary to go with your emotions, get the right vocabulary to describe where you're going, what you're doing, how you're going to do it, who is involved with it. Make a real plan. Write it out. Sometimes I have the joy of parenting a teenage daughter.
It is a joy.
And sometimes it becomes difficult for her to express what she wants to say. And so what I've learned, instead of going round and round with her not knowing what she's feeling, I will tell her, take some time tonight, write it down. Write down what you want to say to me. Write down what you're mad about. Write down what you're nervous about, however you feel about whatever is going on. Write it down. And once she writes it down, she's able to come back that next day very articulate about it, and usually she is able to discuss options and think it through more clearly. And somehow kind of leaving the day, letting the night pass helps too. I'm sure putting the prayer on it from both our end and hers helps too, but writing it down makes her have to articulate her thoughts and gives her words to be more clear in her expression.
Right.
And I think that's the same thing with us with conflict resolution. When we used to do that regularly, it's jotting down what you have a problem with, not just coming with your emotions and your feeling, your anger about it or frustrations, but literally writing down, what am I really upset about? what's the real problem? What is my real concern? What are my fears? What are my expectations? What are my disappointments? Be able to articulate it. And all of that is a way you go about manifesting, establishing that you have a personal interest in what's going on. Put some effort into it.
Right. All right. That was a good explanation of that one.
Thank you.
All right. The fourth one tonight and final one we're going to discuss is be ready to change when God reveals himself. A lot of us are asking God for help or praying for God to come and help us. Lord, if you just do this for me, I would change, and I would do this and I would do that. So, what do you do when God actually reveals himself to you? Are you ready to make adjustments if he wants you to?
And if it doesn't look like what you thought it was going to look like,
are you ready to make the adjustment? So when that happens and God answers, you need to be in position to be able to inform God what you need to do and be able to follow the instructions that you get. Like she said, you may not get the instructions like you think they were going to come. But if you follow God's plan, you will have the results that you're looking for.
Well, a lot of times God's plan may come in a different form than what we thought it would come in. But honestly, if you were planning everything out, what do you need God for? So God's going to give you a plan that requires some faith. He's not going to come to you with something you could have, thought of and done yourself. He will give you a solution that will require faith and a solution that will get you a positive outcome or result. Even if it doesn't look like what you thought it was going to look like.
Right.
It's about trusting God, imposing your faith in that situation so that you can be an overcomer in whatever obstacle you're facing.
Right. So, and I got a statement right here. Shift your conscience to believe what God is revealing to you, and you will receive your blessings. So your mindset has to change to what God is leading you to do. You can't continue to do what you want to do because now you're blocking. Now you're putting up that barrier. Now you got that personal ignorance that's kicked in, and now you can't go and follow the blessings and the roadmap that God has given you to follow, so you can reach the blessings and the understanding that you need to be successful in whatever endeavor that you're doing. I think about a situation where I got a real close friend who lost his job, and it wasn't the way that he wanted to give the job up, but it happened because it was a family prayer, get me out of this situation so I could do something else. But it didn't come the way that they thought it was going to come. And it could have been a blessing for them, but it didn't end up like they thought it should have come. So even when God shows you what you've been asking for, it may not come like you want it, but you got to be in a position to receive, and that means you need to stay spiritually connected to your Father so you can see it.
Yeah. And something to think about is you got to be mindful not to be so married to the procedures that you're accustomed to, or the traditional way of doing things, or the way things were done, the way you overcame in the past. Sometimes God will mix that up. Those procedures aren't always the same. The principles, godly principles, work every time, but the procedures may look different.
Right.
And so you can't be so dead set on things having to be done the same way every time that you can't hear God giving you instructions that look a little different from the instructions he's given you in the past, or from the way that you know that you can do it. Because a lot of times if you think you know what to do, you think you don't really need God to do it.
Oh, there it is.
You figure you can just do it for yourself. And God is always looking for glory. He is looking for your life to bring him glory. And so when you have a difficult place, it's an opportunity in your dark place or difficult place in your life. That is an opportunity for God to get glory. But you're going to have to be able to get beyond yourself and to walk in obedience. I just saw that came up with Mama said you must be ready to walk in obedience to God's word. And that takes faith.
Right.
So those are some really powerful points that we've shared with you tonight. And I hope that you could hear them. I hope you could identify yourself in what we've talked about tonight, and that you can put into practice what we've talked about. I don't think it's something we ever 100% master, but it's something that we're always a work in progress. And God's grace is absolutely enough to get us to the next level. We just have to know that.
And put yourself in a position to follow.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we hope y'all have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And that's all I have.
That's it.
That's all I have to say. I smell that chicken outside grilling. It's got me a little interested.
Everybody don't have to know what's going on at the Brunson residence every moment.
I appreciate
But
you.
anyway, we just want to say y'all have a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your family this year, because we know it's not guaranteed based on our experiences in the last 2 years. So always enjoy your family.
Yeah.
All right. With that said, from the lady and the coach, we love y'all. Good night.